Our women get hot and our liver gets stained when we saddle up and ride 'em in the pouring rain.
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
He's gone country. Look at them.
All right, well, welcome back to the Outlaw Country Podcast. I'm Cole, and as always, I have Ben with me.
We're lucky enough to be joined today by Tom O'Connor. Thanks for joining us, Tom. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it as well.
Well, so first time I found you, Tom, your music, I was probably a senior in high school, and I've been a big fan of you. It was either early 2018, 2017, I found your EP with Deserve on it, and I was just really blown away by that. And when we started this podcast, I don't know if you remember, but you were probably one of the first artists to follow us back, and that was a really big deal for us, and that made us real happy. So I mean, you kind of been with us since the beginning, if you know it or not. So we appreciate that, man.
We had a good name, so I jumped on board.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. So what have you been doing since coronavirus hit and this pandemic? I know it's been kind of tough on artists, and
It's actually been a pretty crazy year all around. I actually was involved in the tornado here in Nashville too, so I lost my place in pretty much everything I owned in the tornado here in March. So the Corona thing kind of happened like a week or so after that. So it's just kind of like been a whirlwind year in general. But music-wise, it's kind of been a little bit of a blessing, I think, because we were behind the eight ball on a lot of things this year. And I have a bunch of new music that we're putting out. We were going to put out a record this fall, but we're pushing it back, I think, to the spring now. And just going to kind of drop songs every couple months up until we get to the point where we're going to put the full record out.
Gotcha.
Shows have definitely slowed down a little bit, although I did finally get to play for the first time in about 3 or 4 months. I went out to Austin this past weekend and played a couple shows with Randy Rogers and Wade Bowen. And got a couple other random shows here and there, you know, some private backyard kind of things and some smaller gigs and socially distanced stuff coming up in the next couple months. But other than that, that's kind of where I've been at.
Yeah.
So you mentioned shows down in Austin. How different was it with like all the new guidelines for how close people can be and like how many people can gather? Like, was the show any different or was it about the same?
I mean, it's different because it's like an acoustic show. So for somebody like me that's kind of an opening act where a lot of people don't know, it was actually kind of nice because everybody was seated and more kind of like a listening room kind of audience, and they were kind of spread out even though it was outdoors. I feel like I probably was able to get through to a lot more people because they're not allowed to be up moving around and they're not drinking and kind of getting rowdy while the opener is on. So I think I was able to reach some more people that way. But, I mean, in terms of the social distance, I don't know. It's just good to get out and play again. I mean, it's different than obviously like a club show or a big outdoor festival show, but it's just nice to be able to do something again.
Just nice to play in front of people again.
Yeah. It was strange with, you know, like having to wear a mask while you're selling merch and stuff, and like people having to wear them when they're like coming around, and then you know, like we did like 2 shows, an early show and a late show, and they kind of came through, sprayed the seats down with whatever kind of disinfecting chemicals. Looked a little crazy there, apocalyptic. But other than that, I mean, it was, you know, it's sort of normal.
Were you nervous at all with playing a show? Because I think it was Chase Rice and Chris Jansen that caught a little flack for having shows, but obviously theirs weren't social distance. Were you nervous about any of that? Like people getting upset?
Not for me. I mean, like, especially being like a support act that, you know, my name really wasn't on the line for everything. You know, I was just kind of there. I was kind of like an afterthought. I think if I was the headliner and we're going to have a lot of people, I think I'd be a little bit more nervous about, you know, liability and getting people sick and stuff. But I mean, I also don't know that it necessarily goes against kind of my brand. It doesn't really bother me.
So you grew up in New York. Was that you like listening to country music and stuff like that? Was that very normal, or was that kind of different? You going against the grain? Were a lot of people listening to that type of music?
Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, I'm from like upstate New York, where we're pretty rural. I mean, everybody like, talk about down south, like, oh, you're from New York, like New York City. I'm like, no, nowhere near there. Nothing like that. It's like, that's pretty much what everybody listened to. I mean, I grew up on like my parents listening to like the classic rock stuff, like the Skinner and Allman Brothers and Marshall Tucker Band and all that kind of stuff. And they kind of gave way to the country, more the country stuff and like the 90s country and the Chesney and the McGraw and all that kind of stuff. And early Toby Keith when it was awesome early on.
Yeah.
And, but, I think people have a misconception about it. I think upstate New York and rural New York is very country. And I mean, I think that's what a majority of people listen to up there. And I think, there's a lot of markets like that in the country where, you wouldn't, I guess, think that it's country music, mecca. But I mean, I think one of the biggest markets in the country is in Chicago. And I think really, there's 2 or 3 country stations in upstate New York where I'm from. And I mean, that's pretty much it. It's that and like hard rock,
So you mentioned growing up listening to like your parents rock. Was there any like specific point you remember, like the first kind of country music you actually did listen to? Like, do you remember who it was and how it got you kind of hooked?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely probably, like I said, the early Toby Keith stuff.
Well, then you kind of went off to college and you started picking up your guitar and playing and writing songs. Is you just kind of naturally like talented at that, or what kind of made you pick that up?
Funny story actually, which is totally outside the genre, but everybody where I was from was like way into like Dave Matthews Band, and I never could get into it. And then right before I went to college, the summer before I went to college, my friends convinced me to like go to a Dave Matthews Band show. And like I was so blown away, like I literally went out and bought a guitar the next day. I'm like, that's what I want to do. And so basically all through college, I kind of like just hacked around on it and tried to teach myself on YouTube and all sorts of shit like that, and just teach myself guitar, and then eventually started kind of writing my own stuff. But yeah, that was kind of the turning point. My music didn't necessarily sound like that, but but that was what got me into it.
So how long after you started playing did you kind of feel comfortable to play in public and go out and do these shows? Or maybe like in bars or at frat parties? Something.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know, probably like open mics, probably halfway through college. It was so bad. I don't even know how my friends would go and listen to me. It was like, I don't know how to sing or do anything yet. And I probably shouldn't have been up there, but I had no fear in terms of that. So like, which is, but I mean, even now, I mean, I still don't think I'm the best guitar player. So I get nervous more about that than singing or anything like that.
Oh, well, did you kind of, I was going to ask you said you have no fear. I was going to ask you if, obviously a lot of people get stage fright their first time maybe playing in public, but could you think of maybe the second time or another time you've really gotten stage fright before a show or something?
Honestly, I get it like in unexpected times, like bigger shows are not like really like hard, like small ones. So you usually are. I get nervous sometimes playing, especially in like Nashville. If you play like a writer's round or something like that, when all your peers are around and you're like, oh, they're judging every single thing you're doing, like oh, like every lyric, everything. If you mess up, like they're like, you feel like more pressure in terms of that. I mean, I can think like big amphitheater shows or bigger shows, not so much, but like the smaller ones are the ones that usually get you.
When you say playing in front of your peers, do you mean like other artists and songwriters like that might be in the bar?
Yep.
Gotcha.
So I know we were looking kind of at your about page on your website, and you mentioned that you were so after college you spent some time in Washington D.C. I was kind of curious, like, what was there a country scene there at all, or
no, it was not really. I mean, I got into like, I had a buddy in college that was from Amarillo and really got me into like the Texas country stuff and like cross Canadian ragweed and Wade Bowen and Randy Rogers and all that kind of stuff, which I was just talking about. And he lived in DC after school. We both kind of went there. I had a poli-sci degree. I went and worked like as a lobbyist on Capitol Hill for a number of years, but music was kind of like a side thing for me at that point. And, and that's where I kind of, I guess, figured out that I could actually do this for a living. You know what I mean? I was doing a lot of stuff on the side, more like kind of like the singery, songwritery stuff and playing a lot of acoustic shows, and I got to the point where, you know, on the weekends I'd be going up and down basically from like Boston to like Charlotte, and just that 95 corridor. Just started playing like a lot of acoustic shows and like coffee house shows, and like, you know, when it's just a guy with an acoustic guitar, it's like you don't have to tell them what genre it is. Nobody really knows. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we don't want country, and then you go and play it, and you're like, oh, that was awesome. I'm like, all right, cool. You know. But the scene was, they had more of a rock scene and more of a kind of like hip hop scene, and there wasn't much in terms of like country music per se. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But there were a number of people that, you know, did the songwriter thing, and it was, you know, it was competitive, but it was, I don't know, maybe decide that I needed to go to Nashville.
Well, about that, you going to Nashville, is there a reason you split your time from Nashville and Texas? It was saying on your About page, because I get Nashville is very kind of can get your name out there and help you a lot, promote your music, but me and Cole love what comes out of Texas and that red dirt scene, and we're just wondering if that's what drew you there.
Me too, and I was the biggest fan of like a lot of that stuff, and I mean, you know, maybe the less mainstream acts, and you know, my route to that was kind of through Nashville, or has been through Nashville. You know, I came here and started writing with a lot of those guys in that scene, and they've kind of brought me under their wing a little bit, and I've gotten to play a lot of shows with a lot of bands that I love and listen to all the time, and it's pretty humbling experience. And but you know, the more I play out there, and I mean, most of the touring that I do is kind of in that area or in that region, those red dirt markets. So so I started kind of splitting time between here and there.
Who are some of the guys you said you write with down there? Who are some of those artists that you write with?
I have a song on William Clark Green's last 2 records.
Oh, okay.
I've written with Randy. I have a song on Dalton Domino's last record. Good, you put me on the spot. What am I thinking? I've been talking to Josh Abbott. We were supposed to write for a while. We haven't done that yet.
Oh, I really like his music.
Let's see, who else? Ross Cooper, Adam Hood. Adam Hood's actually out of Alabama, but Flatland Cavalry guys.
The Flatland Cavalry is really good, yeah.
Yeah, and I've actually done a lot of stuff with them in the last, you know, year and a half or so. We've gotten to go on the road with them a good bit. They're really good guys.
Well, your music's kind of got that rock sound to it, and I don't know if you're familiar with one of the guys we interviewed, John Stork, kind of has that same sound as you. He's out of Texas.
Yeah, I'm familiar with John's stuff a little bit. I mean, I know he's done a bunch of stuff with William Clark Green. And kind of has been running in some of the same circles with a lot of the guys that I've been around and I'm friends with too. So yeah, I mean, that was one of the first ones I saw when he asked me to do this interview. And I'm like, oh yeah, they got good people on there. I'll do it.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad you saw that.
Sticking kind of with like the songwriting, your song "Deserve," is that something you wrote, or was that something that was kind of like brought to you?
Actually, I had the idea. I wrote it with Luke and Ray Fulcher.
Yeah, Ray, he writes a lot of stuff for Luke, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got a lot of them. He does. But yeah, I had the idea, and I thought it would be. I was trying to come up with something different for Luke that he hadn't done up to that point, and you know, I had the idea for a while, and then you know, he just didn't end up using it, and I was like, man, I love the way you sing it, man, more than me. So maybe go sing it on my project with me.
Is that a personal song, or is it just kind of something catchy, or is that actually?
There wasn't like a specific person behind it. I mean, I think all 3 of us had, you know, people in the past that, you know, we could pull from. I remember Luke at the time was fighting with his girlfriend at the time on the phone while we were in the middle of writing it. He's already in that angry mood, so.
Well, it came out really good. So
yeah, it's done pretty well for me. I think probably because his name's on it. But
well, what is it like? Like, how did you get to know Luke? And when you were recording that with him, did you kind of know he was going to be the artist he is today? I mean, he's really blown up.
Well, we were all kind of in the same circle. I mean, I had been in a little while before he came to town, where they do this thing called a Tin Roof Revival. And it was kind of like a songwriter a songwriter night that they did, and it was a lot of really good kind of grittier outlaw type guys, and like Rob Snyder and Channing Wilson and Dave Kennedy, and when Luke came to town, he kind of got into that circle, and I was in that circle, and we ended up kind of writing. And I mean, like, definitely knew Luke was already doing well, and knew he was going to do something. Obviously, nobody had any idea that it would be this big or this fast, but you knew he was going to do something,
Well, you guys have, I mean, I think you guys complement each other really well in that song. You both have that raspy voice, and it comes off really well in that song. And that's the first song I heard when I was listening to your music. It was recommended to me on my iTunes, and I was blown away when I heard that song. And I went through that EP that was out at the time, and I got to say, I know that's probably your biggest song, but my personal favorite off that is They Don't Write Songs Like That Anymore. I think that's a hell of a song, and it's true. I like how you shout out all the older guys, and that's a great song.
Funny story, like I wrote that with Django Walker. His dad is Jerry Jeff Walker, who's like a big Texas country legend.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, this is what I always tell people when I go play in Texas, like, oh, where are you from? And I tell them New York. They want to boo me. Jerry Jeff Walker is from New York as well, and from like about 40 minutes from where I grew up. But and he's like one of the kings out there. But we were sitting in the car one night here in Nashville, and like a Hal Ketchum came on the radio, a small town Saturday night, and Django looked at me and just shook his head and was like, "They don't write songs like that anymore." And I was like, "We're gonna go write that down.
Write that down.
Like, that's it."
Well, out of all those guys back then, who influenced you the most out of all those older country artists? Was it like Waylon or Johnny Cash?
Like I don't know. I feel like my sound is really a blend of kind of like everything that I grew up on. I mean, it ranges from like kind of like that '90s country, which is good. I mean, like, I don't think I try to be anything that I'm, not. But it's, it's the '90s rock. It's the, maybe a little bit of that Dave Matthews stuff. I mean, it's it's some of the grunge rock. It's a lot of that classic rock, Southern stuff. I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's a melting pot of my influences, really.
Yeah, I would say I think one of my favorite songs right now. I love your new song, Bootleg. Love that. The intro of that one is fantastic.
Yeah,
I just feel like it kind of just like blends it all together, exactly like you were saying. Just turning that all the way up in the car is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you have to kind of like keep yourself kind of centered a little bit and not have too much of one thing. But I was like, man, like those are so fun to play with the band and stuff. It's like, man, I want to have a record with nothing but like just those banger rock songs. And it's like, but you gotta have diversity. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's a lot of fun to play, and I mean, everybody's like, it's a little bit out there for everything else that you're doing, and I'm like, nah, I love it. I think it's
right on track.
Yeah,
I love it.
It reminds me of something. It's got enough rock, but still a countryside of it. Almost something like Eric Church would make, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like when we put it out, it was kind of thing like more like Cadillac 3 kind of stuff and Blackberry Smoke. Yeah, Whiskey Myers a little bit,
Oh, absolutely.
We love Whiskey Myers here. Those are one of my favorites.
That's what I was wearing. I thought I had his hat on earlier, or their hat on earlier, but.
So definitely your rock side shows in bootleg, but you've touched on it a little bit. Who are your favorite rock artists or some guys you grew up on? I know I grew up on Bob Seger. I don't know if you're a big fan.
Oh yeah, love Bob Seger. Bob Seger was a big one. God, I mean, definitely love the Skinner. Love the Allman Brothers.
CCR.
Yeah, CCR, not as much as the other, but I mean, like, you got to do that a little bit too. I mean, even some like softer stuff like Neil Young and oh man, I think now. I'm like even some of the '90s rock stuff, like the Pearl Jam and the Bush and I don't know, Gin Blossoms and Matchbox 20 and yeah.
Well, did those singles you've been dropping since 2019? You got Bootleg, She's Hell, Killing the Bottle. Are those songs we're gonna see on that record you were talking about, or are these just?
Yeah. So we we did 14 songs for the full length record, and like I said, the plan now is to kind of put out a song every couple months until we get to the spring, until things kind of get back to normal and we can kind of get the full record out and tour on it and maybe get a good year of touring on a record and doing it like kind of the old-fashioned way. Also have like a lot of new stuff that I like to kind of get at, because I mean, we've had some of this stuff done for a while. I mean, even though people haven't heard these songs, they're not necessarily completely new to me, you know. But
Oh, go ahead.
there's a lot that goes into like kind of the promotional side, and you know, getting everything out there the right way so that people hear it, or we can get it to the most amount of people we can. But I'm thinking, you know, we'll probably do that, and then maybe before the end of next year, maybe drop another 4 or 5 song EP or something, and kind of do that.
So, you said you're going to keep dropping songs for the next couple months. How many songs are you anticipating to be on this record then? Will there?
The full length record will have 14 on it.
Okay, gotcha. So are those? Do you think those 3 ones that you've dropped right now? Would you say those are your strongest songs, or do you think they're most radio friendly? Or
I don't necessarily say radio friendly. I mean, we'll drop different songs for different reasons, and I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to pick. I mean, like, we had to narrow it down, like, when we did the project in the first place. So, like, I mean, I really love everything that we did. So, like, it's really kind of getting everybody else's opinion that's around me to kind of see what they think we should go with at a given time right now, or, you know, just to kind of, like I said, again, show diversity and make sure that everything that we put out, nothing's exactly the same or too similar to the previous song we did.
And is there any chance? I think me and Cole would both be very interested. Would you put that record on vinyl? Because we love collecting country vinyl.
Yeah, I plan to put it on vinyl. It should be on vinyl.
Okay, sweet.
Awesome.
Well, you got 2 sales already then. We're definitely picking that up.
I guess my question is, so I know you have your single "Mr. Perfect" coming out next month, right?
Yep.
Is that one more like of a more country, or more rock, or is it a bit of a blend again?
It's a bit of a blend. I mean, like, it kind of starts off. I mean, there's a little bit of throwback, kind of like '90s country, a little homage to like George Strait a little bit, like a little bit, kind of in the vein of Run, and then it picks up and gets going, and it's kind of like a little bit more rocky as the song picks up and goes.
Now, I mean, I don't know if you can necessarily tell us, but do you know, like, you tell us kind of what the song is about? Is there something you wrote, or?
Yeah. I wrote it, and it's basically kind of a song about a dude that a girl he was way into, he thought he was always going to end up with, ends up marrying somebody else, and it's kind of his last-ditch effort to be like, hey, I don't think a dude's good for you, but doesn't work out. I'm right here.
You got Mr. Perfect right here?
Yeah, well, I think the hook is, let me see. If it turns out Mr. Perfect ain't so perfect after all. Something like that. Like, you know?
All right, we're excited. That sounds like a good song. I'm excited for that. That'll be a fun one.
I didn't deliver it the way I probably would if I was singing it. I had to think about it for a minute, too.
When you're on stage, I know I was looking at your Instagram a little bit, and you're kind of a big whiskey drinker. I know you said that you're drying out right now because you've been on the road.
I just like I said, I haven't been on the road for 4 months, and I went and played in the Texas heat outside, and then caught up with some friends for a couple of days after the show. So I didn't really drink too much during the show because it was too hot, but I spent a couple of days afterwards hanging out with some buddies, and
Get that.
I drove 13 hours yesterday, and it was single shot. So,
well, when you're on stage, like, what is your go-to whiskey, and are you mixing it, or are you throwing it back straight?
Always Jameson, are always Irish.
Okay.
And usually on stage it's rocks, but I'm hanging out and drinking and maybe a little faster or a little more. It's with club soda in it.
You drink Irish whiskey, but please tell me you're not supporting Conor McGregor with that proper 12.
No, I don't like his.
Yeah, we're all. If you follow UFC, we're all Cowboy Cerrone fans here.
He lost me money on that last one.
I know, but man, how can you hate that dude? He's a tough man, and I think if he got another shot and that fight went to the ground, Conor's done.
I didn't think it was gonna go away the way it did. So,
I think kind of the next thing I kind of want to ask you about. I feel like you've kind of mentioned them a little bit, but is there, like, what are some of your favorite country artists right now? Like, either if it's like Outlaw, Red Dirt, or something like coming out of Nashville.
Yes, I really like I said, I really like Whiskey Myers, and I mean, I really like Under the Radar. I love Ward Davis a lot.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
I saw
Um,
Ward at a local bar here in Omaha, or small town Nebraska, kind of near Omaha, and that dude puts on a hell of a show. We love Ward.
Yeah. Really digging the new John Bauman record. Kind of more of songwritery, kind of in the Texas scene. I don't know, Chase. Like I said, I love listening to like the Whiskey Myers stuff, and always love the Turnpike stuff. And
Turnpike's great. Have you listened to Kyle Nix's album? He's the
yeah, no, I don't. I'm not familiar with him.
Oh, Kyle Nix. Believe he's the fiddle player for Turnpike, and he released his own.
Oh, I didn't know he put something out. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, that was
I'll
really
definitely
good
check
album.
that out.
Yeah, the lyrics and storytelling in that album was phenomenal. I really like that album, and shout out to him. He also follows our page too. So
I'll definitely check that out.
yeah, it's a great album. And hopefully they get back together real soon with everything going on with them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I kind of was digging on the new Will Hoge record.
Okay.
Let me see. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, kind of that's one.
Well, when you're at a show, and maybe when you were just coming up and didn't have your own music quite yet, what was kind of your go-to cover song, maybe to get the crowd riled up, or what would you go
See,
to?
that's a funny thing because like I never really, and like I always resisted. I never played a lot of cover songs, so like I didn't really like even when I would do the 3-hour gigs, like I would go play like 3 hours of original music. I mean, I'm throwing one here or there. I mean, there's one in the set right now that I play. Hayes Carl, Ray Wiley Hubbard song, Drunken Poet's Dream. That's one of the few that I do.
Okay.
Sometimes I do a Channing Wilson song called Trainwreck, which I think was recorded by Randy Montana and this new up-and-coming girl artist, Ashlyn Kraft. Trying to think. I mean, like, the covers that I would do would be like so obscure that it might as well be originals. It was a Stephen Kellogg and the Sixers song I used to play a lot, like couple Will Hoge songs.
Well, if you're playing 3-hour shows with original music, are these all songs you're eventually going to cut or maybe pitch to someone else?
Not necessarily. Like I said, I read a lot of stuff with other people and with the intention of somebody else cutting or pitching and yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I mean, I have a couple songs that were recorded by some other people that sometimes I'll play them in the set. I have a song I wrote with Dylan Carmichael that I actually played this past weekend.
Dylan Carmichael, he's great.
Yeah, he's got a badass voice. Yeah, I wrote a song with him called "Might Be a Cowboy" that I played this weekend. I don't know. I just mix it up. I mean, sometimes, like I said, there's a bunch of songs, like I said, that I write that I wouldn't necessarily cut, but play live.
Okay.
Is there a favorite artist that you kind of like to go on tour with? Is there one that you have a lot of fun with on tour, or is like fun to hang out with?
I mean, most of the people that I've gone out with are pretty fun.
Have you been out with Co?
Huh?
Have you been out with Co Wetzel?
I've done a couple shows with him, yeah.
I heard he's freaking.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, like last Saturday or whatever, when I was playing, like they had a big birthday party for him in Fort Worth that pretty much the who's who of Texas was at, but that was while we were playing in Austin, so I missed it. But the guy that owns the venue and my buddy there, he was at it. He said it was quite the extravagant party there. They had he said yeah, pretty much everybody at the Texas music scene was there, like Casey Donahue and Colby Cooper, and Cody West is a band that I love. Cody West is a guy I like a lot.
Okay.
We're talking about that.
I'll check
Pete
it.
Southall and Parker McCollum and all those guys. I mean, it was like a who's who of all the Texas music scene.
Well, not to backtrack, but you said you were playing with Dylan Carmichael? Wasn't his uncle part of Montgomery Gentry?
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that was what it was.
Yeah, I thought I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's right.
He's great. Yeah, like I said with Luke, I think you have a very similar voice kind of like Dylan Carmichael.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I got to play with him, but those were definitely some of the biggest shows and most fun shows in terms of crowd.
I'm sorry. Who are your So we kind of talked about your favorite country artist. You said down in Texas. Are there any like mainstream guys that you're really, really big fans of?
Yeah, I mean, obviously like Chris Stapleton, definitely Eric Church, definitely Luke. Love the Cadillac 3, Ashley McBride.
Ashley McBride's great.
Really dig a lot of the Ingrid Anders stuff that she's doing right now.
Oh, yeah, she's getting real popular.
Yeah. Some of the Morgan Wallen stuff even too, I really like. I mean, yeah.
I say, so, I mean, you kind of mentioned like your older country artist influences. Do a lot of these newer artists have any influence on your music or anything like that? Or do you kind of just stick to your own beat?
Yeah, I mean, indirectly, you observe everything around you. And I mean, even a lot of the songs that they're recording are probably, I'm probably writing with guys that are writers on those songs. And you know what I mean? It kind of comes full circle sometimes, but I don't try to sound like anybody else or try to do anything else for the most part.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is great. I would not, if I was you, I would not try and go with what's commercial right now, because I think the best music is the music you have to look for.
Yeah, I never went did stuff with the intention of to go oh, this is gonna be a hit on the radio, or obviously you want a hit song or whatever, but that's not the first thing I'm thinking about.
I think if there's someone to look to with that kind of idea is Cody Johnson. I mean, that man grinded and finally got picked up by a Nashville label, and before he even signed.
Yeah, well, he kind of built a business on his own. He did a really good job on his own. I mean, he kind of made it so he can do it on his own terms. But and he's done tremendously well. Well,
would you be opposed to being with a label? Do you enjoy being independent? I know it's tough being independent, but do you?
No, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I mean, that's just not the first thing that I would go for. I mean, it would have to be the right situation and the right fit and everything, and but no, I wouldn't be opposed to it at all. I mean,
has anyone been
definitely getting some help helps?
Has any labels been in contact with you about that or anything like that?
I met with a couple, after that EP came out a few years ago, but nothing really serious or anything that was really going to go anywhere or that I wanted to pursue. We'll see. We're starting to get some buzz on the new songs that we're putting out here. I mean, once the new record comes out or once we get some more songs, who knows? I mean, may talk to more people and maybe keep doing our own thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that would. I'd love to get in my truck and turn on the radio and hear your music playing over some of the stuff that we hear right now.
Definitely not opposed to that.
Yeah.
So doing shows I don't know. Have you ever done a show here in Omaha or in the Nebraska area?
Did a thing years ago at some weird county fair in somewhere in Nebraska.
Was it near Omaha, or do you even know?
I know it was near Omaha, but it wasn't Omaha.
Was it the Washington County Fair? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I feel like it was just over the border in Nebraska, Iowa or something.
Okay. Well, I wonder if he played at Stir. No, it was a county fair.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you, I know, it's tough right now, but I mean, when things get easier to tour, definitely come up to Omaha. Everyone here, most people are big country music fans, and definitely love to have you. Me and Cole, we'll be there.
I'd love to. I mean, I'll play anywhere pretty much.
Okay.
I say, there's this small bar that he was talking about earlier in Venice, Nebraska called Buck's Bar and Grill. It's had fantastic artists come through there.
Yeah, we've had Mike and the Moon Pies, Cody Jinks, Whitey Morgan, your buddy Ward Davis has played there. I've seen him play there. So, I mean, I go there. Me and my girlfriend get lunch there a lot. So, and the owner's always there. Next time I'm there, I gotta promote some guys like you and John Stork and those guys and see if they'll get into contact with you guys. But yeah, come on to Omaha. We would love to come see you perform. Like I said, I've been a fan of you for a long time. So I was kind of really excited when we got this interview. So
Appreciate it.
yeah, of course, man.
I don't know if I have any other questions.
Yeah, you answered all of our questions. I think today was a great podcast, and thank you so much for joining us, man. This really helps
Yeah,
our
it's been a lot of
people.
fun. Thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course.
Love to have you on again sometime. Hopefully, you can get back to doing shows sometime soon. More shows, I guess. You have been doing some, but
Yeah, it's not the norm, but yeah.
Hopefully it gets back to normal and you can get back out on the road more. We'd love to hear your stories and like who you're hanging out with and more of your music and stuff like that, because we really enjoy listening to you.
Yeah, and
Oh, absolutely.
stay in contact, and when your new record drops, we'd love to have you back on. So that'll be great. I thank you so much for joining us. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you.
Anytime, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.